I did it! It's a book! It's a book launch! Haha! Hey! So, today I'm going to be sharing with you probably the biggest accomplishment of my young life. This project has been over 9 months in the making. I've spent hundreds of hours of my life on this, and oh boy, are my fingers tired. A long month of cover print issues, a total reread of the ending, 173 pages of my brain power, and it's done. I present to you Flying into Fire. Yep, so I wrote a book. If you'll indulge me, I'm going to read the prologue. More details about how you can buy a physical copy and listen to the audiobook at the end. Nevaeh slipped through the palace, her cloven feet barely touching the ground. The cool feeling of the marble tiles seemed to hint that reality was struggling to keep pace with what was seen. The grand and usually lively hall, which had been the center of so many parties and joyous speeches, was now shrouded in silence. This was a side of the royal family that Nevaeh alone saw. She hated the darkness, so it seemed a shame she had spent so much time in it. It was past midnight, so Queen Indigo's guards, along with most of the servants, had already gone to sleep. This was Nevaeh's least favorite part of being the Queen's seer. She hated the terrible visions late at night and the horrible silence of a palace after dark. Thunder clapped in her ear, a flash cutting across her peripheral vision. A splatter of blood, young avian trapped and wounded, her queen lying dead on the floor, sitting in a tree, desperately trying to comfort a broken girl. Nevaeh stumbled forward, clutching her head like she was trying to shield her thoughts from invisible eyes. Her vision was going white, bright stars clouding in her mind until she could barely tell her thoughts from the sight. I can't let this be my future, she thought desperately, screams still ringing in her ear. She struggled to her feet, head still pounding. A light tear trickled from her left eye, shining off her dark skin like a diamond. She wished she didn't have to see this. It was just a curse she didn't ask for, a cruel twist of fate. As she stumbled through the darkness, she eventually reached the door, although she wasn't sure she wanted to. Knocking softly on the entrance to Queen Indigo's chambers, she once again noticed the majesty of it. The door was gorgeous, with rubies and sapphires studded along the edges. A large carving of a golden dragon was on the front, with brilliant black eyes of polished onyx and lad in the golden scales. It seemed too perfect, almost fake. She hated it. Your Majesty, she whispered, careful not to wake the counselor sleeping just 2 rooms over. Her hand was shaking violently, the panic from the dream mixing with the fear of the Queen's reaction. The ornate decorations could barely be seen in the dim candlelight, and Nevaeh thought it was a shame so much wealth was tucked away here in the inky black. What is it? The Queen growled, flinging the colossal doors open with a majestic sweep of her talons. The Queen's dark black hair flowed down her pale back in perfect waves, making her look almost statuesque. Her face was gaunt, pulled back almost like stretching leather over a canvas, and Nevaeh thought she could see the backs of her eyes right through the skin and bone. Her powerful ruby tail swished back and forth, covered slightly by the dark blue and purple robes tied in a velvet sash. I was granted a message from the stars, Nevaeh said, wishing she could just talk without sounding all mysterious. She had been in this role so long that even her speech had slipped into cryptic mutters. Was it so important you had to wake me up? The Queen growled. Nevaeh nodded, anxiety building with every passing second. Come in, the Queen commanded with a flick of her tail. Nevaeh didn't like the suspicion layered in Her Majesty's voice. She still remembered the story of the Queen's last seer, who was executed shortly after delivering the prophecy of the King's death. She didn't like to imagine what the Queen would do to her after hearing this. Nevaeh glanced up, head pounding as she imagined the possibilities. I said come in, she said, the welcoming tone somehow worse than a menacing one. Yes, Your Excellency, Nevaeh replied, drawing in a shaky breath. So what was this? The Queen asked, sitting in a silk-covered armchair in the corner of the room. Vision of yours. Nevaeh began to speak before she could stop herself. I saw a boy in flaming blue, still a child but wise beyond his years. The name, Trent, a single glittering blade. He will slay you in your own home, leaving the avians to rule your empire for centuries. Nevaeh trailed off, her cryptic tone making the news sound even worse. Her heartbeat was pounding in her ear, drowning out the rest of her thoughts. The avians? The Queen demanded. I got rid of them a long time ago. Nevaeh stuttered. I just tell you what's been seen. The Queen didn't speak, keeping her black eyes locked on Nevaeh. What are you going to do? Nevaeh whispered, her voice echoing through the silent halls of the palace. The Queen grinned, her sharp canines glittering in the pale candlelight. It's quite simple. This boy will not make it to the palace. I'll ensure of that. And in the meantime, I'll keep extra good track of all the avians in this kingdom. After all, the last thing we need is somebody ruining my perfect world. And there you have it! I hope it sounds as epic as I thought it would be in my head. If you would like to buy a physical copy, the paperback is listed on Amazon for $11.95 USD. Link is in the description. I don't have a Patreon or any form of online store, so if you would like to support me and you like what I do here, I would really appreciate you checking it out. I will be reading the full book as an audiobook on this channel, so if you don't have the money or just don't want to pay for it, you can still enjoy the story. I'm going to read one chapter a week, so if you want to see what pans out, please subscribe. This won't interfere with my usual uploads. I'll still put out other content. This is just something I want to share with the world. It'll give me some wiggle room on my schedule, though, so this can fill the gaps between my projects and real-life stuff. I would like to give one special thanks to everybody who supported me during this journey. My dad for proofreading and editing the entire book with me, my mom for being so kind and supportive, my brothers for being everything an older sister could ask for, my friends Ashley, Alyssa, Jacob, and Gabe who read it before it went out and rose my spirits, an online friend I knew briefly as Evie who made me more confident in my writing and somehow made me laugh harder over Discord than most people can do in real life. And finally, I'd like to thank every single one of my wonderful subscribers. This channel really pushed me forward, and I owe my success to every one of you.